Hi, welcome to a new episode of Tom's Geeky Garage. Today we are going to leave the beaten path of the show and do something that is not toy related, nor will it be Ghostbuster related, but it will still be pretty cool. So what's happened is recently over the weekend I took my family to the La Brea Tar Pits so we could just see the displays and all that history and all the cool stuff. When we never been there, we lived here in Los Angeles for like 10 years and never went. So we went ahead and went over and checked it out, and it kind of inspired me to do something museum-wise, you know, something that looked like a museum exhibit. And this wouldn't be the first time I've done something like this. A few years ago, we took a trip to Universal Studios Hollywood, and in the Jurassic Park gift shop, they have some like little statues of Velociraptor skeletons and T-Rex skeletons, but they're like $300, you know, for these displays. So I got home and I found a 3D scan of a skull of a small compy, and I basically 3D modeled the body, and I made one of those, and it came out pretty cool, but it was kind of tiny. And now that we went to the tar pits, now I want to make another one, you know. It's been a few years. So the first thing I'm going to do is try to find a model, because I don't want to spend a week making the bones myself, because it just takes a lot of time. So I was lucky enough to find that this user who makes, he actually makes models of dinosaurs, and he's got this nice model of a Utah-raptor. Normally when I do like these displays, I like to find dinosaurs that are actually just tiny dinosaurs, because I don't want to make a miniature of a huge dinosaur. I want to actually print it at scale, so it's like this is the size of the dinosaur when it was live. Unfortunately, I am not going to be able to do that this time, because this Utah Raptor is 6 foot tall or something and like 20 foot long. So he's like the size of a Velociraptor in the Jurassic Park movies, which in that movie the raptor is actually way too big. He should only be like the size of a large dog. I think they're only like 3 foot tall maybe. But the Utah Raptor was actually 6 foot tall. It was a much bigger raptor like than the Velociraptor. Either way, this is a good model, so this is the one we're going to use. Now, there's only a few other things we need to do to this before we get it ready, because this looks more like a skeleton and not a fossil. And what I mean by that is if you look at fossils, they look like cracked rock more than bone, because they technically are. All the bone and all the organic material has been replaced by minerals and created into basically a rock. So if you look at it, they got little cracks and little blemishes, and they're not perfectly smooth like a bone is. So let me see if I can find another option. Okay, you can see how kind of like the surface is kind of, it's not smooth. So we're going to be doing that. So what I've got is I've got the skeleton here. So it's pretty nice. Like I said, it's all individual parts, so you can see every single bone is its own thing. But we're just going to have to go in and make this look like a fossil. And I'm going to show you quickly on how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to show the whole process, because it's going to take me probably about a week to do all of the bones. But I'll show you doing one. So we're just going to be basically sculpting the cracks and stuff into this guy. So let's see. I'm going to use a stencil, I think. So what we can do is we can load an image. We can load an image of any kind of surface we want into Cinema, and then we can do that. Now the image that I'm using here, if you can, here, let's see if I can make it where you can see it. It's just cracked dirt, and it's got a bunch of pits and rock holes and stuff in it. It's not technically a fossil surface, but it's going to do the trick to make these bones look like fossils. So, watch. So, it's just about... Oh, that's too much. We might have went too much on that. But that's okay, because we can always smooth it out. We can always smooth it out. Let's just turn down... Let's turn up the side. Turn down this. Let's just... Yeah, so... Let's just go. And this takes really no skill at all. I'm really just dragging the thing over the bone. And then you rotate it. And you can see just adding texture to it. Just like that. Right? And it's actually pretty quick the way I'm doing it because you're not actually sculpting anything. But it's gonna work just fine because you can go in here and you just have to work your way around, go to every angle, and make sure that you're making sure that every angle is looking nice and pitted, and that's what I'll pretty much do to this whole thing. I will go through and make sure that nothing is smooth, that it's all got some texture to it. And then what we can do, let's go back to turn that off, clear that. Let's go to smooth. And we can smooth some of this too, like if there's areas we don't need it, you can smooth out chunks and kind of tweak it, because it doesn't need to be like super ripply. But the purpose of this is really when we paint, these details that we just added are really going to help grab the paint and make it look more like a fossil than just a bone. So not only are we going to have to texture all this, but we're also going to have to repose it, because I want a really nice pose, you know what I mean? And I found a picture of this dinosaur, which this is some kind of other raptor. I don't know, this might be a I think this is a Velociraptor, actually. Looking at the skull, this is probably like an actual Velociraptor. But you can kind of see this cool jump it's in, and I kind of want my display to be in this jump pose too. So we're going to have to repose each of these bones after we get them textured. And yeah, so we'll come back when I get that done. Alright, so about 4 days has gone by, and I've got this guy ready to go to the printer. As you can see, I've went into the skull and added all the detail, all the roughness. I've roughed out basically all the bones. I made them all look kind of rough. Not any of them are really perfect anymore. They're all more organic, I would say. All the way around, and I reposed him, and see, he's kind of he's in that jump pose that I was showing earlier. A little bit different. I wanted his legs more up, like he's really about to strike. This one's kind of like, the picture was more like he's about to land or he just jumped. I'm kind of in like mid-attack, and I have no clue if they actually attack like this at all, but it looks cool, like it's gonna look cool on the stand. So now that we have this guy in the pose, I've broke him up into a bunch of different pieces. So basically his head is a piece, each of the legs, the tail, the arms are one piece, the neck is a separate piece, and then the main body. So we will break him up and we will send him out to the printer, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so after a few days of printing, we got all the parts of our skeleton printed out, except for a few of the breastbones, and there's like some bones that go up kind of the stomach that actually are usually held to the body using cartilage and muscle. So they're actually not connected to the other bones. They're kind of free floating. So we're going to have to probably use an armature to deal with those. But so we have our tail section. We have two arm sections. This is our hip bones and our ribs and our main spinal cord. We have two legs. We have the neck. This is the jaw, the bottom jaw, and the skull. And because I'm impatient, I already went ahead and painted the skull. Hold on, let me get this. Went ahead and painted the skull so I could kind of get an idea how I wanted the final fossil to look. Hopefully we'll make the rest of the body kind of match this look, because I like the way this looks. Now we'll show this better with better lighting later, but there's the skull and the jawbone. And then I have a brass rod that will be the mount, and then I bought this stand on Amazon. I think this stand was only like $7. So it's a really nice looking wood stained stand. It's really glossy, looks good. And then we'll have the brass rod coming out of it, and then the skeleton will be fixed atop of the brass rod once it's all put together and painted. So the next step for me is to start to assemble all these bones together and glue all of them together in one big piece, and start ready to paint it. But I'm thinking I might actually start painting the parts individually first, before assembling, because I think once it's all assembled, it might be too difficult to get in and paint it properly. So, yeah, at least maybe painting everything black, because once all this, once all these bones are glued together, I'll have to like try to work around them, because they're really, they're really fragile. And it might just be easier to paint them as they are and then glue it all together. I also have armature wire, which I will probably use too, to run armature wire underneath a lot of this stuff to hold it all together even better. That's actually a common thing in actual full-size dinosaur fossils. If you ever go, you'll notice there's like a metal frame that's welded around the dinosaur skeleton that kind of helps support it, because it can't support itself, obviously. And then usually they'll paint it to match the bone, or they'll paint it black so you don't see it, but it's usually there. We'll have something similar to that. Yeah. Anyways, so I'm going to start to I'm going to figure out if I'm going to paint or assemble, and when we come back, I'll be ready to look at the next step of this thing. Okay, so we're at the stage where we're gluing all the bones together, and sorry for the kind of crummy footage here. I'm just using my phone. I didn't want to drag out all the camera equipment right now, because I really don't have time for it. So yeah, we're gluing the skeleton all together, and the way we're doing that is we're using the same resin that we printed with. We're using this resin as a glue. So like what we do is we use this little resin applicator, and we just drop a little resin in the joint that we're gluing, and then we hit it with a little UV light. Now, I actually normally have a UV flashlight, but it got lost during the move, so I'm improvising here with a UV LED and a couple batteries. I did order a new UV light on Amazon, but it has not arrived yet. So yeah, we kind of build up layers of this. I'll kind of moisten the area with a light bit of glue just to hold the leg temporarily, so I don't have to hold it with my hands. And then I'll cure it as long as it can hold its own weight. And then after that, I'll come in and add multiple layers to kind of really, secure it. So we'll just keep adding layer after layer of this, and then just before it gets a chance to drip or run, I'll hit it with the curing light. And yeah, then we have to make sure that we're going underneath and hitting the underneath area too. Make sure that everything's getting nice and cured. With the flashlight, it's much easier because you get a much more brighter set of light, because it usually has like 7 to 10 of these bulbs in one flashlight, so you can really just hit the whole area and cure it a lot better than this. But this will work. What I'll do is, once I get all the pieces glued together, I'll set this outside in the sunlight and make sure that all the stuff is really, really, really cured. Alright, so this would be the last bit for the top, and I think this joint will be well glued. Okay, so we're gonna finish gluing this all together, and we'll come back once we get it all put together. Right now it's on the stand, but it's just taped. It's not permanently glued to the stand yet. I wanted to make sure that I get all the skeleton kind of glued together. Let's see if I can scroll back here a little bit. I wanted to make sure that I could get all the skeleton glued together first before I actually affix it to this. And I think I'm going to end up painting the majority of this, at least the base coat, before connecting it to the stand. I might paint the whole thing and at the very end glue it to the stand, because I might want to take it off, handle it when I'm painting, because on a stand it might be difficult to you know, get to certain places. But it's looking pretty good so far. So we'll finish gluing it, and then we'll come back. Alright, so we have got all the stuff glued together. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I like the pose. This is a nice little jump pose we got going on. I think it looks good. The stand looks good. I still haven't glued it permanently to the brass here. I wonder if that's too long now. Nah, I guess it's fine. It's a little high, but that's okay. And the funny thing is right after I had said that I didn't have my curing light, Amazon had wrote me and said, hey, your curing light showed up like 10 minutes. So now I can go over this guy really good. Make sure that everything is nice and cured, where I've glued all the stuff together. The only thing I'm a little unhappy about is when I was gluing this together, I glued it together in sections, and I got this foot a little close to the hand, because that raptor claw is like right next to his hand. I didn't really want it that close, but I can live with it. So yeah, so this guy is, you can see the length here, he's 2 to 3 hand lengths long. I don't know how, he's probably like, he's kind of squished up, but he's probably about 1.5 feet long. It's a pretty decent size. Here's a painting, you can see it next to a painting. Pretty good size for a piece of table art. You can see it there on the table. So next step is to, I'm going to continue to cure this guy. And then next step is to start the painting. And then after the painting's done, I'll go ahead and glue I'll go ahead and permanently glue him to the stand. And then start thinking about what the next one's going to be. I want to do more of these because these are really cool and I think they look really neat sitting around the house. And I'm about to put in a big set of bookshelves that go across this whole wall, that will hold the TV and like the PlayStation 5 and all that stuff. And then we're going to have knickknacks and all my wife's books kind of on top of it. So I need like some things like this to put on the shelf. So I'll be making more of these. Except I'm thinking, instead of just doing dinosaurs, I might do something that's like a character. Like, I know, like last year when I got my Ghostbusters collector book, there was like a skeleton of Slimer. Like, I guess it's concept art. They were going to have him like a skeleton. Maybe I'll do his skeleton, do like a Slimer skeleton. These ribs are super fragile, but they'll be okay as long as no one touches it. Alright, so I'm going to start painting this, and then we'll come back once it's all painted and finished, I think. Alright, so we are done with the first stage of painting. It's looking pretty good so far. So what I've done painting wise is I've basically started out with it all black. Oh, let me lock this. So I started out with it all black, and then did a dry brush with like a almost like a flesh tone, and I did a like kind of a medium dry brush on that, so I covered about 80% with that color. And then I took just pure white and did another dry brush over that. You can see that here. Where I did a really light dry brush, so I only wanted to get the tips and the edges with that. So it's like black and then heavy dry brush with like a bone flesh color, like a darker color. And then pure white, I just kind of lightly hit it just so the high surfaces are you know, getting hit. So like very high spots like the knees get hit with that white just to make them kind of pop. And then right now it's sealed, so I've sealed the whole thing with clear gloss. I'm not worried about it being so shiny right now because we are going to do a few more washes on this that will knock down the shininess of this, because the washes are flat, so they'll kind of matte the surface a little bit, but there will still be semi-gloss, kind of like right here, because this skull's already been finished painting. You can see how it's got some gloss to it, but it's not super glossy. Now, the difference between the skull and the body right now is the skull's finished completely being painted. So it's already went through all the washes and everything on it. And that's why it's way darker than the rest of it. So by the time I get done washing the body with the browns, which we're going to use a dark brown to wash the rest of this, it'll all match the skull because the skull's done. So that's the next step, is going through and just doing the wash on the body. And then all the nails and all the teeth will be painted flat black, which they already are. I've seen a specimen online where the bone was natural bone color, then the teeth were all black, and I like the look of it. So I'm going to do something similar on this, rather than having the teeth, the bone color too. And then I'll go through and I'll paint all the you know, all the raptor claws and things like that will get painted matte, flat black. But yeah, so that's where we're at now. So I'm going to go ahead and do the final wash on this thing and finish up the overall look. And then we'll get a good look at what it comes out looking like.